New entrepreneurs, you need to know how to really understand your financial position as a business owner. And we're going to talk about that today. Hi, my name is Yolanda, known as Yo, the virtual bookkeeper here at Osborne Virtual Bookkeeping Solutions. And it's really important for new entrepreneurs or small business owners to understand where they stand financially in their business. They need to know if they're making money, if they're losing money, or if they need to be able to earn a certain amount to be able to purchase assets and so on. So today we're going to just dive into that specifically for those that are new to business, okay? So if you see me looking down, I have some notes prepared so that I don't ramble on, but give me some grace, okay? So on the first tip, we're going to start with you need to start tracking everything that you do as far as spending wise for your business. If you're making purchases for your business or for the nature of your business, you need to have a way to be able to track that. And there are multiple reasons why. The first one is because you will be able to show that to the IRS. This is what I'm spending into my business, and this is why I deserve a deduction or a tax credit. Okay. And then the other reason is because you need to be able to see when you do your financial reports, you need to see how your money is being spent. Oftentimes, when we are making money, we tend to spend more and we don't realize it. But that's what the reports are there to show you how you're spending and what you need to be cutting back on. Okay, and then so also you need to be looking at how much money are you putting into your business. Like, are you putting more than what you should, because that means you don't have enough customers. So you'll be able to see all that information when you are tracking. That's why it's important to track early. Don't wait, start making money and then try to go back and track, because then that's where it's going to get costly for you to have to try to figure out and then pay a professional to be able to put that information into a software. That's very tedious and time consuming. Okay, another reason why you need to start tracking everything is because when you are wanting to, let's just say if you're doing a side hustle and you want to take your side hustle to your main source of income, well, you cannot do that if you don't know how much you are needing to be able to make in your business to get to that point. Just making a sale is not enough. You need to be able to make multiple sales in order to grow. But your data is going to show you, okay, this is how much it's going to take to be able to make a sale. And then you can kind of go from there. Also, with the advice of an accountant, because we don't gatekeep over here. We're not going to say you just need a bookkeeper. No, you need an accountant too. But an accountant is going to be able to help you deep dive more into the things that you can do legally in your business to grow. Okay? And so the second main point that I want to comment on, you need to commit to a money date. Now, you're going to hear me say this a lot, often throughout the year, because this is where new small business owners fall short. They don't check in and see where they are financially. They're just so caught up in making the money, but they don't actually take the time to sit down and look at their numbers. And that's not a conversation that's popular. So I want to be the voice of reason to say, hey, you need to sit down and know where you are financially. Like, are you making money? Are you losing money? And do you need to be in a position where you can make more money? And that's not just looking at your bank statement. So if your form of bookkeeping or looking at the numbers is checking your bank account, then you're doing it wrong. You need to be looking at how much you are spending to do business, and then you need to deduct that from whatever profit that you're making. That's your clear number of how much you're actually making, because you have softwares in place that you have to have in place for your business, like your website, your CRM, your payment processors that take their fees out. So there are a lot of things that come into play as far as cost for doing business. So all of that has to be factored in. And once you understand that in the early part of business, it helps the transition even easier. So when you're trying to, take your business to the next level, you already have the mindset, okay, this is what it's going to take for me to be able to hire, or outsource. Those type of conversations That type of thinking is what gets you going into thinking, okay, when I'm looking at my numbers, do I have the budget to hire a branding coach, or do I have the income to hire a coach? Because when you get in business, you're not just getting in business to do everything yourself. You have to have you don't have to have a big team, but you do need to have somebody to help. So you're gonna have to pay somebody to help you stay in business and to be able to grow, depending on the type of business. Now, if you are intending on just being a solopreneur, then this conversation may not necessarily be for you, but you can still tap in anyway. But anybody that's getting in business and you're doing this for the long haul, the early stages is where you create your early money habits, your spending habits. You start being mindful of your spending. So, that's just one thing to definitely keep in mind. As you begin to treat your business like a business, the mindset is going to change. And bookkeeping is definitely a mindset. It's a discipline mindset, but it's also awareness. It helps you stay aware of where you are financially. Like, when you think of big corporations that are successful now, they didn't get to where they are just by doing everything or just looking at their bank statement. No, they actually put themselves in position to be able to hire, but guess what? They had to prioritize looking at the numbers, bookkeeping per se, to make sure that they can afford to do what they're needing to do. And they had to pay somebody. They had to pay somebody to help them understand, okay, what do I need to do to get to ABCD? And that professional is trained to tell you and help you understand how to take your business to ABCD. Okay? And so, what a bookkeeper does, a bookkeeper helps track that information. Because when your business start making money, you are not going to be able to keep up with the transaction flow. It's just not going to be possible. If your business is popping and you got customers, you're just not going to be able to keep up. You're going to be so busy trying to make sure you meet the needs of your customers and provide good customer service. Bookkeeping is eventually going to become the back end of your concern. Okay? So, to prevent that, I'm having this conversation with you now so that you can prepare yourself, what to expect, especially if you are just getting in business or you are new to business. It just kind of give you the mindset shift of what you need to be prepared for. Okay? And then the other reason why you need to commit to the money date is because it just helps you realize, okay, last month our sales was down, but this month sales is up. Okay, and then you're going to look at your analytics, and it's going to help you be able to see what worked. And if it works, then guess what? You're going to do that same strategy again to make it work again, because the whole goal is to keep making money. So that's why you need to have a money date in place, just so you can just see where you are. You may have something in mind where you want to go to a convention, where you can network. And if your business is making some money, you need to see, okay, if I make enough sales, can I put this X amount of money back so that I can be able to afford to go to this conference? Or I want to be able to rebrand. I need to put back a certain amount of money to be able to have a budget for that. So bookkeeping, it brings awareness, but it also help you budget and just be prepared. Be aware, but also be prepared. And my slogan is, stay plugged into financial clarity. Plug into financial clarity. Okay? And how do you plug in? You stay aware. So, the last point that I do want to touch on is seek professional advice. You're going to get into entrepreneurship, and there are going to be some things that you're going to be good at. There are going to be some things that you're going to know. You may not necessarily need to seek advice, but you will not be able to be in business and not seek advice at all or hire a professional at all. If that is the end goal, be prepared to be out of business soon. If you're thinking that you can do this alone, you're going to have a rude awakening. Even if you don't have any sales, you're going to need to refer to somebody for help. And when you're building your business, as most people say, brick by brick, there are going to be some things you're just not going to know. So rather than wasting time trying to figure out and do it on your own, if you have the funds or the means to do so, reach out to somebody that can actually help you. You never know. A person may be willing to help you, maybe not always at a lower cost, but you just never know. And then also, get better at nurturing relationships. Sometimes you can get, some services or what you need just based off of a good working relationship or a rapport. Like, for example, I've networked with a few bookkeepers, and there's one in particular bookkeeper that always come to my mind because she's more seasoned than I am, and she's more knowledgeable in the tax industry because that's her background, and her name actually consists of tax. So when I get clients that come to me and that have like more acute, unique tax situations, she's the first person that come to my mind. And even though we're not besties or anything, but I know that she will provide good quality services, and she will make sure that the customer is getting what they need. And I'm the kind of person that if I know that somebody can help you and I'm not able to service you, I'm going to recommend you to that person that can actually service you, because if I'm doing it, I'm not doing you a service by doing something I know no knowledge of. Now, I can do all things in Christ. However, I'm not going to play with your money, and I'm not going to tell you I can do something and I can't do it. So that's why it's important to network with people and just understand, figure out what it is that they're good at. So if you know somebody that may need their services, you can, refer some people to them. But that was kind of off topic. To get back on topic, make sure if you come across something in your business and you don't understand, get comfortable asking for help, because you cannot go on this entrepreneur journey alone and thinking you could do it by yourself. Business is not even set up that way. It's not. Now, depending on the type of business you have and the service you have, if you only just don't, just want it to be you, then that's fine. That's totally your choice. But realistically, business requires more than one person. It's just not gonna pan out to where you just don't need anybody. Even if you're using AI, you're still using something to help you achieve a goal. So there is no such thing as that I did this by myself. Okay. So anyway, with you being a new entrepreneur, I just want you to be aware that in the early stages of your business, you definitely need to make sure that you are aware of your spending. And in order to do that, you need to make sure you are tracking, okay? And you need to make it a habit to stay aware. Stay aware, And then if you feel like you're doing this alone, guess what? I have a community called the Plugged In Community, and it is a newsletter where I'm sending you once a month, updates about things that's going on with the IRS as it relates to business, and then some other bookkeeping tips. And then I also send you some, I check in with you, see how you're doing, how you feeling. And I'm probably going to be doing exclusive offers to my subscribers only. I'm still working on it, but I want to I'm creating a community for new entrepreneurs, service-based preferably, because that's who I service. But I'm creating a community where I can communicate with you and tell you about bookkeeping stuff, keep you on the up and up about things that's dealing with the IRS as it affects your business, And then also, if there are other things in place that I know that can help you, I'm sharing it with you. So I'm creating a community that I can just exclusively communicate with and just share a lot of valuable information that I may not necessarily share publicly, okay? So that's the whole goal. So if you're interested, make sure you check out the information in my description, or I'm going to have this QR code here that you can scan, and it'll take you straight to the sign up, and then you can go ahead and get plugged into Financial Clarity. Okay, so if you like this type of content, make sure you like, subscribe, and if you know of another entrepreneur, go ahead and share with them. Look, sharing is caring. Sharing is caring. It's always good to share with other people we consider friends, entrepreneurs, because this information is valuable, and I'm definitely going to be putting out more content. This year had been a struggle because I ended up getting more clients, and because I'm by myself, it was hard to be able to keep up with doing client work and producing content for YouTube and other platforms. So I just made a decision to focus on my clients first. And then once I get caught up, I can get back to the content. So here I am back to the content and just, wanting to share. But yeah, if you enjoyed this, make sure you check in for the next video, and I will talk to you soon.